Strike one, there's a killer on the loose. Strike two, you never know where he'll strike next. Strike three, too late. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Awful. Too many uses of the word strike.
There's also
You can't use 3 strikes and then also say strike like the killer is striking during one of the strikes. That's stupid.
There's also 3 strikes, she's dead.
That's way better.
When it comes to murder, it ain't over till it's over. Don't understand that one. And then sometimes the only thing more dangerous than hunting down a murderer is ... finding him.
When it comes to murder, it's getting late early.
Feel like they didn't have too much of a problem after discovering who it was on stopping this dude.
No.
Right? Like, he's like, oh, it's this guy? All right, there's 10 minutes left in the movie now. He's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is episode 247 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is, I guess, Nathan again.
I'm still Kit.
I'm Katie also.
This week we watched 1989's Night Game about some terrible baseball team.
Yeah, the worst baseball team. If I had known this was going to be all about the fucking Astros, I would have refused.
Not a single Nolan Ryan reference, who's the only Astro I'm aware of. Just terrible.
Garbage team. Get them out of here. It's all based around them winning, too.
Well,
Winning a lot.
Trash.
They won at least, 3 times?
Trash film. Get it out
In
of
the
here.
movie?
Yeah, I can't remember how many times this guy killed somebody.
6 at least.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That seems excessive for the Astros.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess I haven't paid attention to baseball in long enough that I don't even know if the Astros have been good at any point since I stopped paying attention. But they were terrible, I believe, when I was like a baseball fan as a kid.
They've won 2 World Series, and one of them they cheated massively.
Ooh.
And were real dick bags whenever everyone was like, you cheated.
No, we didn't.
Doesn't sound
Legitimately.
right.
They're like, why are you getting mad at us? Fuck you.
Right. Can't get mad at us. We cheated the right way. Just like
Didn't strip them of the title or anything.
Just like
they
learned from the
fired their
Patriots.
hitting coach, I think, was it.
How did they
Yeah,
cheat?
that's a fix.
damn. So they had an elaborate system of sign stealing where they have someone out in the stands with binoculars that would watch and figure out the opposing catcher's signs for their pitches, and then
Gosh.
from their locker room, someone would bang on a trash can, and a certain amount of bangs would indicate what the pitch type was.
That seems way too much work.
It's so fucking stupid. And throughout the season, I guess, the teams were like, yeah, we heard a lot of banging from over there, and we didn't know what the fuck was going on.
That just feels like the episode of The Simpsons with all the baseball players when Mr. Burns is doing the super elaborate hand signs to Homer, and Homer wasn't paying attention to what any of them mean. Yeah. I actually I wouldn't say this movie's great, but I actually really liked it. It had that sort of made for TV feel I enjoy. So it kind of worked for me. Roy Schneider just kind of being the worst, but also supposed to be the hero, dating a fucking 19-year-old or some shit.
Whenever he's talking about their marriage or whatever, it's like, our wedding. I was like, he's marrying her? He's like,
yeah, I got a lot of questions
he looks 70.
about this relationship with Roxy, Because there's like one point in the movie where they're talking to Roxy's mom, and Roxy, I think I don't know, she kind of had a way of talking that like you couldn't really understand the words, but I think that she was implying that she went to high school with and slept with him at some point.
That's
now
my understanding of it.
He's marrying her daughter. I was like, excuse me? Did I interpret that correctly?
She's only 35 years younger than him, so...
Disgusting.
Very normal and chill.
Very strange thing to like
NBD
put into the movie for like no reason. She could have very easily just been like, you know, 10 years younger or something.
No need for this.
I know. The only reason I think that they did it is because like they were very specific about the sort of like woman that was the target of like the killer, and he killed like younger blonde women, and so
just I don't know, to put her in harm's way.
You can't, yeah, exactly, like, right, you know, they couldn't have just made it middle-aged women. Like it had, I don't know. That's my only thought, but like also very unnecessary and gross. I didn't not like this movie, but I found it a little boring, and I just really fucking hated the main character guy and like all of the cops. I was like, I absolutely cannot stand any of you guys. And I like the part of the movie that's like, I do like that it's kind of like a cop procedural, but like everything they did felt completely by accident and unearned, which I guess is like fair, probably is pretty common for detective work mostly. But like, I don't know, it just was kind of like a lot of the cops like having pissing matches with each other for no reason. And then randomly, sometimes a guy would kill a lady in a way that we couldn't actually really see or determine what was happening. But the main character guy is like so good at his job, he can look at a slit throat and know it's a hook. And I was like, shut the fuck up. I don't.
So he finds out who the killer is just like hanging out at a bar, right? Or no, he was in the booth and someone like mentioned it like during a game.
It's like the sports writer. Also, okay. I guess I have more to say about this movie than I thought, because like the sports writer, all of the old white guys look the same. First of all, the guy who gives him the clue is like a sports writer, and the sports writer goes to him and says, "Oh, I got this call from somebody saying he was a mistake or whatever." And so that's how he gets connected with him. And so like the sports writer guy is like in on this investigation, but it doesn't like pull together any of this knowledge and like figure it out. He's just like really absentmindedly telling the main guy about like sports facts, and then he's just like, "Eureka, that's it." And I was like, what? Okay, sure.
Incredible motive for the killer also.
Very dumb.
I actually was pretty on board with the motive. But like, again, like I'm a fan of these kind of like a terrible, like, you know, you catch at 2 a.m. sort of like made for TV movies. So like I like, yeah, obviously all of the plot is a mess, and like every character is unlikable, but I was here for it. I kind of enjoyed it. I do agree that like it takes too long to really get to anything going on, and there's not enough like of the deaths or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like the one I specifically remember them showing, where they're in the like the funhouse or whatever, is pretty good. But I feel like that's like the only one they really show, isn't it?
That and the very first one with the lady on the beach.
Oh,
where
yeah.
he, like, slashes her throat.
Yeah, I was like, all the rest of them, it's sort of just like the aftermath, like they find the bodies or whatever. But
yeah.
I think if there was like more of that, it would have like, because like it does take like a solid 30 minutes for like anything to really happen. I feel like you get the death at the beginning, and then there's like 30 minutes of just, you know, that very sort of like
Him being a cop.
Yeah, like the way a lot of movies from like the 70s, which I know this was the 80s, but like that just take like so long for like getting you introduced to the character or like the characters in the movie.
Yeah, I think that maybe I would have enjoyed like 80 like early detective stuff is like extremely my shit, and I feel like maybe if I hadn't seen so much of it that's like very good, I would have liked this more, because like this didn't feel to me personally like a made for TV movie, which I feel like would have made me like it more. But like,
is it because there wasn't commercial breaks?
Actually, I watched it on Tubi, so there were commercial breaks. I don't know. There was just something. Like I said, I didn't hate it, but like, it was fine. It was all right. Give me Columbo. give me some Matlock. I do get what you're saying though, because a lot of those like Columbo, they're episodes, but they're like an hour long,
yeah.
And the earlier ones do just like follow him going around and like sniffing around for like a solid 45 minutes. The thing that is like hard about Columbo though is that they always show you in the very beginning who the killer is and what happened. So then you just spend an hour trying to like watch him figure out what happened. But it's okay because he's like charming and stuff. So it's fine to watch that. But this dude, I did not care for at all. What was his name? Rob Schneider.
Garth.
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider is Michael Seaver.
If it's his name Michael, because Michael Seaver is
I know.
What's his name?
He's
Hamlin?
From Growing Pains. Yeah, his name was Michael Seaver, and I was like, "Excuse me."
I do like that. 2 years before this movie, Karen Young, who plays Roxy, was in Jaws: The Revenge.
Hell yeah!
Rob Schneider was in
Jaws.
Yep, and Jaws 2.
Jaws 2. And 2004 Punisher.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
Thought he was dead.
He was
by then.
Frank Castle Senior.
I thought you were going to say he
canceled.
was Frank Castle, and I was like, wait.
He was.
I was like, I go watch the
Punisher.
fuck out of him playing the Punisher.
Tom Jane didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Also,
Thomas Jane plays the dad, and Rob Schneider is Roy. Roy
Scheider.
What?
He was in
whatever.
He was in Dracula 3 Legacy as well.
And Dracula 2.
Was there
recurring role?
Wow.
Terrible.
What a king.
These movies are
The Fourth War. Okay.
Yeah. We can go ahead, jump into it. I feel like, I don't know.
Let's hippity hop.
The way this plot works, I don't know how this will last, because it's so much just like him doing
cops talking
work or yelling about a TV and arguing with his girlfriend's mom that's his age.
With his girlfriend's mom, who is his ex-girlfriend. Yeah, so we'll just... I do have actually a pretty good page of notes, but we've already talked about some of the more outstanding parts of the movie. But so basically this movie starts with the Astros versus the Giants playing a game of sports ball at the Astros.
Two terrible teams. Awful.
Yeah, not even a single Cincinnati
Grudges.
Red in this movie.
Got grudges against both.
And I also want to point out that there are absolutely no baseball puns in this movie, which I was extremely let down by.
What this movie needed was baseball themed kills more
That's
than
what
anything.
Okay. When you said that we were doing this movie, in my mind, I thought it was going to be literally like somebody like Phantom of the Opera, but at the Astrodome, right?
I mean, I assumed
somebody
it was gonna...
running around killing people baseball style in the thing, and this is just like baseball adjacent.
I assumed
essentially.
It was going to be like either like a non-joke version of like Night at the Dribbler, but like baseball. So, like,
right.
You know, very specific.
Murderous mascot.
You know, how, like Kit said, like, you know, getting murdered by, like, a baseball bat or, like, a, you know, hit
pitching
with baseball,
machine.
some shit like that. Or I thought it was going
Kid's
to be
favorite, the pitching machine.
like a serious, like, you know, kind of like it is, like murder mystery thing, but like in a baseball stadium or something.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. So, yeah. So it starts out at the game. Then there's some really cool 80s smooth jazz music. The music was a banger, okay? It was
Yes,
like
the soundtrack is great.
very good.
Pino Donaggio coming through with
Killing
that saxophone.
Literally
Always and forever.
such loud sax going on. And also every song sounded like a sex scene. So like even when it was like come to the murder, it was like
that's what makes this movie
and I was
good.
like okay, weird, but anyways, over shots of the city, and I assume they're in Texas because one of the guys was wearing a big old ring that's the shape of Texas. So and the credits. We get the credits already. So we're introduced to our our main character, who I'm just going to call Seaver, who I don't know what kind of, if he's like a detective. At one point he said he's not a cop. Or I don't know what he is.
They make a deal out of that. I don't remember if they say that, like, wasn't he like transferred to that department or something?
Yes, but like they also do this thing where I know I said in the past that I like this, but I did not like it in this movie, where they made it seem like we missed, like this is Night Game 2 and we missed Night Game 1, because they allude to a bunch of stuff that happened in his past, but they don't actually tell us what it is. So there's like a lot of situations where his boss says like, I'm not going to cover for you like I did in Dallas. And I'm like, what happened though? And we don't nobody actually tells us.
No, you should have watched the prequel like I did.
Well,
Day Game.
Yeah.
Day Game. I was trying to think of what
just
would
called Game.
Game. Okay. So he's some kind of detective or a cop, or he's a something or other, right? And
my theory is he's still the cop from Jaws.
Probably. To be fair, like why?
They got tired of him in that town.
And I'm also very confused because like he is like, how old do you think he is?
I mean, I'm assuming he's supposed to be his like regular age, which would have been 57 when this was made.
I'm sorry, this man looks like he's in his 70s to me.
He's looking very rough in this film.
I think he was born in 32 and this was 89. Because I remember I was looking up, like, trying to figure out what the age difference was between him and Roxy.
Yeah.
Because he's born in 32 and she was born in 58 or something like that. Yeah, 58.
Okay.
I mean, he honestly didn't. I don't know. I guess maybe. Granted, I watched it on YouTube, which, you know, not usually the best video quality, and I watched it at work, but I don't remember being like, oh, he looks really old. I thought he just looked like he did Jaws. But I feel like everybody in that time period looked like they were 30 years older than they were.
I wouldn't say old,
fair.
but he looked
Older.
rough. Like real leathery, you know?
Oh,
extremely leathery.
I feel like that's kind of what he's always looked like for some reason. Like, he just looks like one of those dudes that you see that just, like, has spent all of his time outside with no, like, suntan lotion or anything.
No protection,
I saw a review that said he looks more like a football than a baseball in this film, and I have to agree.
Yeah, he does.
We started watching, like, the new season of Real Housewives of New Jersey yesterday, and every single person in that show is, like...
A football.
Not even that. They're like that color of, like, tan you get where you just look red all the time because you're so tan. And that's kind of what, like, Roy Scheider looks like all the time to me. He always just looks like he did when he was, like, filming Jaws, where you know he's been standing outside in the sun for fucking a year and a half
10 years.
that they made that movie.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, he is visibly
I'm sorry,
older
we were talking about
than
people's
her.
skin, Katie. I'm just gonna
I
push it
am.
past
I'm
that.
saying he's visibly older than her, and I'm confused because like they made it seem like she basically like walks. He's watching a baseball game as he is there's like this entire movie. He's either listening to a baseball game on the radio or like watching baseball on TV. He's like obsessed with baseball apparently. And so his Roxy comes in and is like turns off the TV. She's got some like champagne, and she is like, I don't remember what she says, but something at like at 10:23, Mr. Mike Stever asked Roxy whatever to be his wife. And I thought that they were celebrating an anniversary by the way that she said it. But then we find out in a couple scenes that they literally just got engaged. And I was like, what? I'm very confused. But anyways, she accidentally spills a bunch of champagne on his lap. And he's like, ooh, ah. He like overreacts
like
so
that
bad.
she spilled like a fucking hot bowl of chili on him or some shit.
Yeah,
He's
and then
wounded.
there's like another scene where he like hits his head and he's like comatose. And I was like, sir, calm down. Like you didn't hit your head that hard. Anyways, then and so they're gonna, celebrate as you do. There is a woman who was like walking through like a pier where they have like a carnival set up, and I wrote she has very cool earrings. There's a lot of cool earrings in this movie. This lady is wearing like snake earrings, and then there's another Roxy's mom wears this pair that's like a huge sun, or no, one's a star and one's a moon, and they're really cool. I liked them. Anyways, she's like walking through and she says bye to somebody or whatever. She leaves the pier and walks out onto the beach where there's a parking lot for some reason. And somebody watches her from inside a car.
Yeah, you get serial killer point of view in this movie.
POV. SKPOV of his hands gripping the steering wheel. And then he basically like creeps toward her, and this part in hindsight doesn't make a lot of sense because she is startled. I guess maybe if he was famous. She was like startled, and she turns around and she's just like, oh, what are you doing here? Like as if she knows him, but she's still like a little scared of him. And then I wrote, I don't know what happens here because it kind of looks like he just like karate chops her really fast, and then she falls over and like her neck is split open. Because it makes like a whoosh sound, and it's just like really fast, and because I guess we're not supposed to know the murder weapon yet, but it was like, I don't know, not very clear. Then the next morning,
I don't think they did like enough with the hook aspect. Like it could have been like more. There could like they try to do this sort of like. Red herring or whatever of like the like fishing,
yeah.
I know what you did last summer style like hook thing.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like yeah, I think they could have done something more with the idea of like this guy having like a hook for a hand.
Well, especially because like until the end of the movie, when you see like who he is, like his whole body and his like extremely long arm, you don't ever really see it. So it's not like they're using it to scare us or anything, because he like strikes so fast, like a viper, that it's just like, I don't know. Anyways, the next morning, Seaver gets a call about the woman being murdered, and he is mad because it is late at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Amen.
So he goes to the beach, and there's this other sheriff named Kyle, who, of course, his name is Kyle, who he just like has pissing matches with the entire time, and like we don't even know why they're like rivals or whatever. But basically, like Kyle is shit talking him to Ronnie. Ronnie is Seaver's boss. So they're basically just like, oh, you stupid fucking guy. And he's like, yeah, you couldn't pick up a wallet with a cat scratch. Like they're just like saying shit to each other. That's like,
you finish that metaphor.
And so Ronnie is basically just like, you guys can both be here, but you have to cooperate. Like, I'm not dealing with this.
Real quick. I think we have a new IMDb trivia person. Like, you know how we had for a while, it was like every movie was somebody was telling us what car
Yeah.
model
Yeah.
car. All of the trivia for this movie is like detailed information about the buildings they shot in.
Hell
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Like
Building guys here.
literally like a paragraph of the history of these buildings of like
The Houston seawall or
Literally.
whatever.
For decades, a dance hall and illegal casino operated by Sicilian barbers turned bootleggers Sam and Rosario Maceo. The
Fuck
Balinese
yeah.
Room was an elite spot in 1930s and 40s, featuring Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope, George Burns, the Marx Brothers, and other top acts of the day. Patrons of the private club included Howard Hughes, Sophie Tucker, and a wealthy oil baron from Houston. In 1997, it was listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. During the early morning hours of September 13, 2008, it was destroyed by Hurricane Ike. The Texas Rangers could run the 600-foot pier like the Dickens from the hotel, but never arrive in time to legally raid the place. What?
I don't know.
Like, it's like, there's like 10 of these.
That is wild.
Someone who loves Houston.
Yeah, really.
I'm assuming they mean the actual Texas Rangers, not like the...
Not the
Oh, yeah, I
baseball
guess
team.
that would be
right,
Houston,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, why is this thrown in here? Like, who gives a fuck how fast the baseball team could run up
Who's
and down
sending
the
the
pier?
baseball team in to raid a illegal casino?
Look, that's the movie this should have been. This should have been the baseball team were also detectives.
Yes.
Yes. 100%. I love that.
All right. Sorry, I just needed
Okay.
to point out in case it ever shows up again in a movie that we have a new
All
IMDb
right.
trivia guy. Because 100%
Building man.
this was a guy.
Definitely. So, Seaver goes and checks out the woman's like personal effects, which is like he takes her purse and like finds out who she is or whatever, and shows Ronnie, who like I said is his boss, a note that he found that says like all the best or best wishes or some shit, which is like the MO of the serial killer who is always leaving behind notes. All my love, XOXO, the killer. Seaver goes to the murder victim's apartment, and it's really weird because like we find out that she's a sex worker, and I think that they just maybe didn't know what an apartment would look like, because they just took a bunch of white sheets and like draped them on the ceiling and stuff. And I was like, I don't think this is accurate.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
It looked like a circus tent, but like it was very strange looking. Also, she had 2 birds, which hopefully somebody took care of them.
They killed them with one stone.
Oh my god. He is rummaging around her apartment and finds her quote unquote little black notebook hidden behind a painting. And while he's in there, another woman comes in and she sees him and like goes to rent out, and he's like, wait, like wanting to question her. He asks if she's in the quote unquote same industry, and she's basically just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this is like a kind of weird, again, I feel like also they try and plant all these red herrings, but they don't quite flesh any of them out, because this woman basically tells Seaver that she heard about her friend being murdered on the radio and was like, I went to go see if it was her, and like I couldn't believe it really was. And then she says that leading up to her murder, she was acting really crazy because she was obsessed with this man named Earl Howard Bernard, who works for NASA. And so that's a lead that they get or whatever. And then he arrests her because he's like, do you live here? And she's like, yeah, on the first floor. And he was like, you're under arrest. And she's like, for what? And he's just like, because I'm a fucking dickhead, that's why.
Because he can.
So back at the precinct, the cops look at the murder scene photos and are discussing like what kind of weapon it could be. They think maybe a cleaver. And for absolutely no reason at all, Seaver just is like, could it be a hook? And they're like, I don't know, maybe. And then they show the letters again, which again all say like best wishes, best of luck, all my, like whatever they say. Then there's like this whole thing about how the governor's office wants to send in some help to figure out the murders, and all of the guys at the station are like fucking pissed about it. And Ronnie's like, we don't need their fucking help, and says that everyone has to work 18-hour shifts.
Jesus fuck.
And like for most of the movie, you see them just like sitting around eating and whatnot. So it's like they're not actually really doing any, they're quote unquote doing a stakeout or whatever. So this is why I wrote Roxy talks to her mom ? About having a small wedding. This is when I realized they just got engaged. And this is where I began to be confused about how old Roxy was, because her mom looks younger than Seaver does also. So it was a little confusing. Roxy and Seaver go out on a date, and yeah, this is where I was just like very confused about what was happening. I think this might be the scene where the mom says something about how they were doing the dirty who's a what's it or whatever. They were doing like a dirty romp or something. And now here she is getting ready to get married, and she's like, "Oh, mama," and I was like, "That's fucking gross. I'm sorry, that's gross."
Look, it's Texas.
Fair, but it's so gross. At the police station, there's like this whole scene where they're basically talking about different suspects, like different men who could be suspects or whatever. There's this one guy who it was like a had like domestic abuse charges against him, so they go to question him to get his alibi, and he is basically makes a comment about how Roxy's like too young for the cop, and then he slaps him, which was pretty funny. There's another baseball game. Seaver goes to interrogate some fisherman who used to know his dad, and he tells him to leave town, which also was confusing to me, because he's basically just like, my boss thinks that maybe you are a murderer, so you should leave town.
It's they don't it's another one of those things, like they don't
explain.
They don't go into like the details of it. Like they just kind of throw a couple lines throughout the movie about it, but he was somebody that like was like a close family friend and shit like that, and he says like at some point, because I guess they try to like bust him on like a sexual assault charge or something. They talk about like from like, in the past, and they like Seaver's like, it wasn't him, he's still a virgin, like you don't, like they're just, they're trying to like just sort of like lay groundwork for shit they never really capitalize on, but like essentially it's supposed to be that like whatever cop is sort of after this guy, I think, for being like mentally disabled. And they just don't necessarily do like a great job of like saying that. They just sort of like allude to it to throw a couple lines like everything else in this movie.
Well, and when he ends up getting arrested, the guy Kyle, who is like Seaver's rival, is like interrogating him and asking him if he, like, the reason he was a friend of their family is they made it seem like maybe his dad did some like shady stuff, because he was like, you were one of his guys, right? Like you were a cleanup guy. And I was like, what are they talking about? Because they don't ever actually come out and say it. So I think that they arrested this guy just because Kyle knew that he was like a friend of the family or whatever. And then also they found a hook. But it's like, I don't know. It's just really strange. So he's like, you need to leave. And he's like, is that what you want? And he's like, yeah, it's the way it's got to be. And he's like, all righty. He doesn't actually leave, though. So at the boardwalk, there's these two girls who go into a fun house. They are just doing that mischievous thing where one of them's like, hee, I'm mischievous. And she's like running around. And like the other girl is like, Charlene, I don't know what their names were. She's like, where are you? This is stupid. And the other girl's just like, hee, like running around and like having her chase her or whatever. And so the one girl is like looking in a funhouse mirror essentially. And this guy walks up behind her and it like distorts his face, but kind of not, because like once you know what he looks like, he literally looks like the same guy. And he basically like hooks her neck. She falls against the mirror and is dead. And then her friend, who they describe as brunette and overweight.
I don't remember that. She's like completely.
She's like 90 pounds.
Yeah.
They're like the same. So like the type of the person that the killer is killing is like like the quote unquote like skinny, pretty blonde women or whatever. And the blonde girl that was like being all mischievous, her friend was brunette, and her friend just like walks in on the guy killing her friend, so she gets killed too. And then they were just like, she's just an offshoot. He didn't care about her. She just like saw the scene happen. She was brunette and overweight. And I was like, excuse me, what the fuck? Anyway. So they both get killed. And so the cops get called to investigate the funhouse scene or whatever. And they're like looking at the writing because like the two girls are dead. They both have notes, but then he also wrote on the mirror in blood best wishes. And he's like looking at the handwriting, and he can tell by looking at it that it's somebody that wrote with their right hand. And then they're like, well, that doesn't make sense because the killer was left-handed. And it's like this whole thing that they're trying to, I don't know, make confusing. But then I'm also like, people are ambidextrous. So I guess maybe that didn't exist in 1989.
Yeah, that didn't show up till about 95.
Yeah. Well, I was born in 87, so I'm ambidextrous.
Yeah, but did you know until like 95?
I knew at birth, yes.
Oh.
I came out and I knew.
I don't believe you.
Started grabbing tools off like the fucking doctors.
Yes. I was already writing the Great American Novel, and
well, that checks out. I've read it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And American and a novel. So there you go. But anyways, this is just a real doozy. They just cannot understand what's going on here. And then while they're at the crime scene, somebody has a pizza delivered to the funhouse crime scene. So that's fun.
That's what I would do.
Same.
Jalapeno and kielbasa, I think, was what they got delivered. Kind of weird.
Sounds pretty good.
I mean, it depends. Are you trying to spend the rest of your shift just shitting? Then
yeah. If I gotta work 18 hours, I might as well shit.
Right.
Because I'm not gonna lie, there's times that like I'm like,
so...
I don't want to work tonight, so I'm gonna eat double Indian food just to get paid to like shit at work.
Normally, if they were working an 8-hour shift, it would be 5 hours of it, but it's 18, so they gotta bump it up somehow.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that they put that on pizza. I guess. I don't know.
Again, Texas.
What, jalapenos?
Kielbasa. Kabasi.
Yeah, they say it weird in this movie. I forget how it was, but I was like, I
It's
don't
just
like
sausage.
That. It's not the same as, like, normally when you get pizza with sausage, it's Italian sausage.
Yeah.
But kabasi is not the same as Italian sausage.
Number one, it's kielbasa.
It's kabasi.
I refuse.
Kielbasa sounds so weird to me. Anyway.
How it's spelled.
That's how Jack Black says it.
Then it's definitely
That's
wrong.
how Jack White says it too.
All the Jacks are in agreement.
That's currently White Stripes discourse on Twitter. It's the only
Oh
reason
God, I just saw it. It's fucking stupid. White Stripes would be better if they had a competent drummer.
Had a drummer
Shut up.
that wasn't a
Fuck
woman.
off.
Okay.
Like they'd still be bad, but her drumming is fine. That's not what makes the band bad. It's Jack White being a terrible fucking vocalist. I'm looking up kielbasa pizzas, and these look pretty good.
I'm down. I just like literally have never ever seen them on a menu.
Like almost all of them are just like kielbasa and peppers. So
yeah, sounds good. Next time I'm at a crime scene, I'll order some. So
You should.
probably pretty soon. You tend to be
Any day now.
KDT tends to show up at a lot of crime scenes. We're not really sure why.
Yeah, it's not connected to anything. I just, it happens.
Katie hasn't explained to us why she got a hook hand recently. Like,
that's why we can't have video podcasts. It's because I don't want anyone to see my hook hand.
She stopped talking about her minor league baseball career. Very suspicious.
I pivoted to pretending I don't know anything about sports, and I think it's working. Okay, so
I like the idea that somehow you became a baseball player but didn't know anything about baseball. That's the version I'm gonna go with.
I mean, you just hit the ball and run. That's it, you know?
Katie just walks out there with like a hockey stick, take a swing at a baseball.
I feel like a rugby bat would work pretty well too, because it's like the same thing.
Does rugby have a bat? Or are you thinking cricket?
Wait, I'm thinking cricket.
Just cover your tracks even more.
Exactly. Okay, so this is when Seaver goes to talk to the coroner who has done an autopsy on the two girls that got killed in the funhouse. He's the one that says that is like whatever. So this is where I'm also confused because the coroner makes it a point to say that the girls, okay, because I think that they were previously under the assumption that all of the women that were being murdered were sex workers, and the coroner is saying that the two girls that got murdered the night before were actually virgins. But I'm like, okay, you could still be doing whatever, it's fine. I think I mean, this was made in like 89, so what do they know, I guess. And he surmises by the way that the girls were cut that it is a tall man who is left-handed, and then he's like, but the writing is right-handed, and he's like, I know what I saw. And he's like, right, even though he's got like a notepad with him where he could be writing notes, he is writing on like a Miller Lite coaster for some reason. So this is when he finds out that his friend, his name was Alex, the family friend that he told to leave town, finds out that he was actually arrested, and this is where it's revealed that he owns a hook. And Kyle is like interrogating him about it, and he's basically just like, well, I have arthritis, so like I need that to be doing fisherman stuff or whatever. And Seaver shows up and is basically just like, Alex didn't kill those women. He was with me. You need to let him go. There's like all of this like talk about, like I said, something like how Alex relates to Seaver's family. But like, again, they don't explain it well enough. So it's like, whatever. Meanwhile, at the pier, Seaver talks to Roxy and she's mad because like he's been busy with, murder and baseball or whatever, so he hasn't been like returning her calls. And then they go back to their house, and it's basically he like the front door's open or something, and so he thinks that their house has been broken into, so he's like creeping around inside the house. Somebody gets out the window, like all their stuff is ransacked everywhere, and he thinks that for some reason, in my mind, when I was like watching this, I was like, I don't understand like why somebody would be breaking into his house right now. And then he tells Roxy he thinks it's because of the little black book that he stole from like the first lady who died. And I was like, okay. So there's also this other like subplot that just like doesn't need to be in here.
I remember like the the break-in or whatever, but I was literally about to ask, I can't remember if they explained why or who it was.
They do, and it's like, again, it just doesn't need to be in here. So the next morning, they bring Roxy's mom a new TV for whatever reason, and Seaver puts it on top of her microwave.
I had so many flashbacks of trying to move these giant fucking TVs.
Fucking nightmare.
Yeah, Kit, install 7 of those TVs, please.
Absolutely not.
You just imagine those hanging on a wall.
They bring her TV because it's like a new TV, and he got it half price or something. And Roxy's mom's just kind of like, okay, thanks, I guess my regular TV was fine. Also not really sure why she has it on top of the microwave, but So they leave, and Seaver is basically mad that Roxy's mom didn't like appreciate the TV, and he's just like, I guess bringing people TVs is not a big thing nowadays. And I was like, okay.
Well, someone could bring me a TV if they want.
And so then he drops Roxy off at the movie theater. Okay, this is where I don't really remember like how. Oh, he sees. So when they turn the TV on at Roxy's mom's house, they see a news story about this baseball player named Sil Barreto. And there's a thing, basically, like he got married to his wife on the 4th of July at this chapel, and they're literally being like interviewed at the wedding. They're like, "How was the wedding?" And she was like, "It was great, thanks." Like, get the fuck out of my face. But the reason that it catches his eye is because the very first victim, apparently, like a victim that we didn't see, was murdered behind that same chapel on the 4th of July. And so Seaver is like, okay, that's suspicious.
There's so much like mystery set up for shit that just doesn't matter.
I know, it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So he goes to, yeah, okay, because this is what happens. He goes to the baseball player's house. He's not there. His wife is. So he's talking to the wife about like getting married on the 4th of July. And like, where were they? Were they still in town that night? And she's like, no, we went on a honeymoon. We weren't there, whatever. And so he looks at this photo of them getting married, and it's like all these other baseball people. Again, I have no idea who, like, if any of these people are real baseball players or were. But there's like one guy standing in the back, and he's like, "Who's that?" And she's just like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't remember seeing him." And he's like, "Can I borrow this photo?" And so what ends up happening with the photo is that they like enhance the 1989 version of enhance the photo, but all it does is just like blow it up, so you can't even see the guy's face. So this like literally goes nowhere, right? And meanwhile, some random guy, like Roxy has been out of the movie and Seaver like never came to pick her up. So she's just like standing there like abandoned or whatever. And so this random guy like pulls up and is like, "Hey, let me give you a ride." And she's like, "Okay." So like as soon as they pull out of the parking lot, then Seaver shows up and she's not there. And so now he's driving all around the fucking place trying to find her. Meanwhile, she's just at the illegal dance hall dancing around.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Just having the time of her life. She then there's like this jump scare where she goes outside to use a phone booth, and you think that like the killer is creeping on her, but it's just some random guy asking you to use the telephone. Stupid. Then there's this other woman who's like very obviously drunk, and she's like walking through this like abandoned, dilapidated, and or could also maybe be future apartment buildings going up like by the beach or something. And the killer like stalks her and like follows her up into this like apartment structure, and then she gets hooked, but like via shadow, so we don't actually see her die.
Yeah, you only really see like the one in the House of Mirrors or whatever, right?
Yeah, because I mean the other one, which happened in the very beginning, was just literally like so fast you couldn't tell what was happening. So, yeah. So Seaver gets the call the next morning about this woman, and the cops get in a fight for whatever reason, like a fist fight. I have no idea like what is going on with them.
It's just cop behavior.
I mean, fair. Then someone shows up in a helicopter, and it is the guy from the governor's office that they were trying to send, and he's basically just like showing up, and he's like, "Hey, this shit is over. Like, fucking stop being goofy. We gotta figure this out." And so then Ronnie tells Seaver that like he needs to take a few days off because this is when he's like, "I'm not gonna cover for you like I did in Dallas." And I was like, "What the fuck happened in Dallas?" They don't ever tell us.
Yeah,
but,
you don't want to know. It was that bad.
But basically, like whatever it was, people like kind of don't trust him, I guess. I don't know. He's just like a cool cavalier guy. He just like does whatever he wants. So he takes that advice, and so the next day he's just hanging out at the beach with Roxy, and then they go for her to try on a wedding dress, and then he starts getting mad because he's like, I thought we said it was going to be a small wedding, and now there's 60 people coming, and you want this dress and whatever. And she's just like, all right, well, it's like my first marriage, so like
I
want to.
It doesn't seem like he wants to get married.
Not at all. He's stupid, and he like, she tries the dress on, and she's like, oh my god, I love it, and she's like having a good time or whatever, and he's just immediately like poo-pooing on her. Then her mom shows up, and they get into an argument because he's basically just like, the mom is like, oh, this is beautiful, like, where's the train? And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, for the kids to hold. Such and such is a cousin twice removed, bringing their kids and whatnot. And he gets like pissed off and starts yelling at her. And then she's basically just like, fuck you, I don't like comps anyway. And like they get in like an argument, and he storms out.
I fully believe that after this movie, the mom and him get married.
Oh yeah, probably. So basically, he brings up the fucking TV again. She's like, I don't even want your new TV. I barely get any channels or whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna come take the TV back. And she's like, fine, I'll leave it on the doorstep. And he's like, I'll tell you what you can do with that TV. It's just like really juvenile. Then he storms out, and then the mom's like, so can we see a dress with a train? And I was like, okay. Anyways, the whole fight was just like very stupid, but when she said like, I don't even like cops, I thought that was so funny. Okay, so this is when the wedding photo doesn't turn out. Then he sees a newspaper that the headline says Barreto wins. And he's like, Barreto wins. This is just like his genius brain. He just immediately figures it out, because then he starts looking up sports statistics and finds out that anytime, which is this like common for like, and whenever I hear any like sports stuff, they're like,
it's pretty,
the Astros win.
Pretty normal that like somebody kills somebody anytime a pitcher wins. That's just part of baseball.
Well, I know that, but like, do they normally will put out articles pointing out a specific person for having won the game?
Like, he's a pitcher, so pitchers, because pitchers they get the wins.
Yeah,
technically, pitchers have a win-loss record. So like, this guy in the movie, he's won several games in a row, so that's something that they do call out.
Yeah.
And like,
okay,
I was gonna say
Barreto wins, like, and rolls so and so team.
I think like it's like Kit said, like it's also like seems like in this, like where it's been so many in a row that it's like a very special thing they would point out. Like I think it was one of those things where it's just like, like I'm sure every sort of pitcher probably doesn't get like the treatment this guy does in this movie, because like not every pitcher will go on like a 12 game winning streak or some shit.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so basically he sees that, and it prompts him to look at all the stats, and he basically figures out that every single time the Astros or Barreto has won a game, somebody's murdered.
Katie, you keep going. Kit and I are gonna White Stripes tweet for the rest of the episode.
Okay. So then they're basically, so he just like figures out that the reason this is happening is because whoever's doing the killings is trying to take the paper headlines away from Barreto, and is, because that's like the important thing here is to like steal a newspaper headline. And so then he says that the letters that he's leaving behind are actually autographs to his fans. And I just want to point out that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. With true crime kind of culture now, I feel like that is more believable than it probably was then.
Well, and so okay, let me go a little further, and then I'll get into my real issue with the backstory of this serial killer here. Seaver talks to Ronnie, and there's like a weird back and forth, and he ends up he like finds him in a bar, and he's like drunk, and he's like, I can't do my job or whatever, and then Ronnie or Seaver's like, here, you can have this black book, and he's like, why? I don't want handouts, I can do my own damn job. He's just like, just look at it. And he looks at the client list from the first, like, the sex worker that was murdered, and finds out that that cop he hates, Kyle, was one of her clients. And so that's what his house being broken into was, just this like back plot of the cop he hates not wanting them to find out that he is like running girls like through the police department, which didn't need to be in the movie at all, I feel like, it is what it is.
I'm curious if this movie was like one of those things where maybe it was supposed to be longer and they ended up having to cut out like to get to like an hour and a half or whatever instead of it being like 2 hours. I wonder if they like cut a bunch of shit that like
they might have, because I feel like they start so many plots and like little backstory things that just like literally never go anywhere.
Yeah, it's just like
So,
all
I
of
don't
these
know.
like details that I'm just like, this is unnecessary
Weird.
for like by the time you get to the like the reveal and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not even
So-
like red herrings to throw you off. It's just like details for shit that doesn't matter.
Right. So this is when Seaver decides that he's gonna go to a ball game. So there's like a little scene of like Roxy's mom saying like, I hope you're not making a mistake marrying him, like he's old, and she's essentially just like, he's no fun, he's gonna leave you high and dry or whatever. And she's like, whatever, I'm going to listen to music, and she stomps off to go to the dance hall. So this is when Seaver is with the sports writer guy. He asks about Barreto, and he's basically just like giving him information, and then Seaver thinks to ask like, oh, did they have a spot open for him on the team? And then he's just like, oh no, he got a spot because they like dismissed this one guy named Floyd Epps, and then when he was leaving to go back home, he got in an accident and lost his hand. And then this is where he's like, that's the fucking guy, because obviously if you lose your hand, you're gonna have a hook hand for sure.
Oh my god, why would you not? That sounds awesome.
You don't even necessarily have to stop playing baseball. There's a one-armed pitcher for the Yankees.
Yeah, Jim Abbott
Well,
for the
yeah.
Angels was like my favorite baseball player when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He only had one hand.
Yeah. He was fucking great too.
Yeah, he was
like
good.
he'd throw that fastball and he'd have his hand in his glove so quick.
Yeah, it was wild.
Like
Um,
so yeah, you don't have to become a murderer.
Hear me out though. What you could do is literally just get like a baseball glove attached to that hand permanently instead of like
Yeah,
the
that's true.
hook, and then you're just like the perfect baseball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
he
as long as you don't have to
decided
go hit, but
Yeah, just replace it with the bat.
did they ever say in the movie what position he played? Well, I guess he was a pitcher too?
He was a pitcher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he got cut for Barrett or whatever his name
He would have been
was.
fine.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if like what league has like where pitchers hit too, but like he could probably figure.
No,
it out.
yeah, National League.
If he didn't have to
I feel
hit,
like,
he'd be fine.
he could have done something, but he chose murder, so here we are.
He's like
So this
he's
is when
like the
Seaver calls
fucking Michael
Ronnie
Jordan
and
going
tells
from and Bo Jackson. He just goes from baseball to murder like they did.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
basketball and
one sport to
baseball.
another.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
He's
Seaver
doing it
calls
in
Ronnie-
season though. It's really impressive.
He didn't really take any time off either, so he's dedicated. Gives him the identity of the killer, which is Floyd Epps or Eeps, I don't know, one of them, and they dispatch the cops to his house. I said this is where the tables turn, because now Seaver doesn't want the Astros to win. He's like listening to the game on the radio, and it's like, and they get another home run, and he's like, no, damn it. And I was like,
Fair weather
Um,
Astros fan.
yeah, right. This I thought was terrible but very funny. The cops and Ronnie get to Lloyd's house and they walk up to the door and Ronnie leans forward and whispers, "This is the police. We have a search warrant. Open up." And then there's no response, obviously, because he's whispering. So he just like busts the door down at that point. And I was like, okay.
That's a real thing that they do.
Yeah,
that is...
that's an actual thing.
100%. And it's like fine because he's not there anyway, but I just thought like
when you said
wasn't
it's
funny,
fine, I was like, wait. Is Katie gonna be like, it's fine? They got
no.
Don't worry about that.
It's no.
Katie just
you don't have to worry
herself
about
being
me.
a police fan.
No, definitely not. Whoops. Okay. So they bust in and Ronnie's not there, but he's got the serial killer newspaper clipping wall, as they all do. So they know that they
every
found
time.
The killer. Then it's very suddenly revealed that Floyd is at the same bar that Roxy is at. And he's listening to the game on the radio and he hears that the Astros are winning and he immediately gets triggered. And he sees Roxy at that same point and now she's targeted. So he starts following her around and I'm not trying to victim blame her, but she does something that you absolutely should not do, which is that she notices that he's following her. Then she like goes around to the bar, right? And he still follows her. And then she goes into the kitchen, which is also weird because like nobody notices she's in there. And then also there's this like huge guy with with like an 8-foot long arm following her. And she goes out the back where there is nobody. And she's just like on this boardwalk by herself. And I was like, girl, she was like, she had friends. There was like at one point when she was like dancing with somebody. And I was like, why would you not go? You did the opposite. Just a PSA for people listening. Don't do what she just did. So she goes out back.
With the guy with the hook hand. That's what I would do.
She goes out back and it's just like this boardwalk that like wraps around the restaurant because it's like on the beach or whatever. So meanwhile, Seaver finds Roxy's mom and Roxy says that she's at, the dance casino or whatever the hell. So he's going to go out and there's like this whole long scene of like Floyd following her or whatever. And then she comes to a dead end where the door is locked from the inside. So she can't get into the restaurant, but she's like standing outside. She's like banging on the windows and people are like looking at her and he's just like there and he starts attacking her. People are just like staring. And I was like, oh my God. Again, that will happen. So just don't get by yourself.
Wasn't that one of the things about maybe it was a Son of Sam. One of those murders, like big kind of mass murder things in like New York, where it was in like the like little square of an apartment complex where people just like heard it happening and were just like whatever.
You're thinking of Kitty Genovese, which so it's called the bystander effect, where essentially like that actually is not a real story because it did happen, but people did actually call the police and the police like just didn't show up.
I saw it in a movie, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that means it's real.
Yeah, the idea is basically just that like there's so many people that they don't want to take responsibility and they assume someone else will. So they say that if you're like in that situation, you're supposed to look at somebody and be like, hey, dude in the baseball shirt, call the police because I'm being attacked, which sucks, but like I don't know. There's all kinds of people freeze. She's like banging on the window right in front of like this younger child. The kid is just like, ugh. Anyways, that was a tangent. But she's banging on the window, like asking for help. Meanwhile, Floyd grabs her and is like grappling with her or whatever. And I'm confused because he's saying something to her about like how it's her fault. And she's the one that like did this to him. And I'm like confused because they don't ever talk about the motive as to why he's targeting like these specific kinds of women. They just like don't ever talk about it at all. And I'm like, is it because the baseball player's wife is blonde?
That was what I kind of put together is that I was under the assumption they were supposed to be sort of
Right, but when he's like talking, when he's like choking her out and talking to her, he's like saying things to her that made me think that it was like a woman's fault that he like lost his hand and couldn't play baseball anymore or whatever. And I was like, I don't think that that's true. So this part very much confused me. Anyways, um, Seaver arrives at the restaurant and like sees her being attacked through the window, and so he literally opens the door and goes outside and is basically just like, "Hey, buddy, good sports stats you had when you were playing ball or whatever." And then he's like, "Let her go," and then they start wrestling and whatever. They wrestle a little bit, and then Seaver ends up, picking his gun up and shooting him, and then he falls into the water and is presumably dead. I guess we don't really know, but he was floating in the water.
There's a sequel coming, just in
Yeah.
time.
Then it just cuts to Seaver and Roxy getting married at the baseball stadium. And the baseball player's wife is like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." And he sees them. Sil Barretto himself sees them and leaves the field, much to the chagrin of the umpire, who was like, "Can't get back here." He's really mad about it.
I mean, that's a balk. He's already set. That's a balk. Like,
yeah. So he comes over and he's just like, "Hey, man," like to Seaver, and he's like, "Nice to meet you. Congratulations, like on your wedding." And then he goes, "Hey, thanks for all the thrills." And then it's the end.
And then
If I'm still
puts on his
Barretto.
CSI sunglasses.
did you stay for the after credits where they kiss?
Still Barretto and Seaver?
Yeah.
And they run off together?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
This,
And that's the end.
They go down to Peru and start their own baseball league.
To Peru.
Yeah.
Peruvian national team.
Yeah, so that's the movie.
I
Lots of questions.
still enjoyed it, despite it not
glad you
really
liked
making
it.
sense.
I mean, listen, how many
Making sense is overrated.
Yeah, it doesn't inherently have to make sense for me to like it, to be honest. Like, we all sat through that The Lost Boys, which, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense, is still one of my favorite movies. I just needed there to be more action, maybe that's the
I
problem.
think the real problem was the killer wasn't a baseball team mascot in a giant head the whole time.
Yes.
I'm saying it could have been Slugger from the Rockies, the Triceratops. That would have been sick as hell.
What is the Astros mascot?
What the fuck is his name? He's this stupid
Is it
fucking
Asti?
alien guy.
What?
Aston.
Yeah. What is his name? Orbit.
Steve the Astro.
He's like a shitty knockoff of the Philly Fanatic. It was like green alien dude. He's awful. I hate
Why
him.
Oh,
does
yeah,
he
this is
look like
terrible.
that? He's fuzzy. He looks like a teddy. He kind of looks like Shrek if Shrek was fuzzy.
And stupid.
Oh wait, those aren't antlers. Those are little orbits.
Antenna. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more upset that the annual salary of a MLB mascot is roughly $250,000 a year.
What?
We're in the wrong.
I can make a quarter.
This podcast
I can make a
is
quarter
over.
of $1 million
We're
being.
gonna become mascots for baseball teams.
I'm gonna see if I can apply to be the horse for the Rangers.
The horse. Hey, y'all looking for a new horse? Cause
I'm sorry. Is the St. Louis mascot called Fred Bird? I fell down a rabbit hole. Wally the Green Monster, Blooper, Mr. Met, Orbit, Philly Fanatic, Fred Bird. The Orioles.
I didn't know Fred Bird
is just the Oriole Bird. Mariner
God damn it.
Moose. Hell yeah. Stomper was it the Athletics?
Fred.
Yeah,
Bird
the
looks
elephant.
extremely unhinged.
Holy shit, Billy the Marlin looks incredible.
Yes.
Bernie Brewer with his giant ass mustache. This rocks.
Yeah.
Mr. Red Legs without red legs. Come on, Cincinnati.
Ew! Is he a lobster?
No, he's got.
He's
So
like a baseball head
this
guy.
is that's specifically what I was thinking of. Like when
Oh,
I
he's
said
so fancy.
when I said like the killer should have been like like a baseball mascot.
Yeah.
Because I always
Yeah.
had this image from growing up in Ohio of like the mascot with the giant baseball for a head.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't gonna be like a mascot killing people, I at least thought it was gonna be like at the stadium or like maybe baseball people were being killed. I wasn't expecting it to just be like an old baseball player doing random crimes. San Diego Chicken.
Makes sense to me. We should all become baseball mascots. We're fucking around, wasting our lives.
Oh, Middle the Mule. Frep the Fox. Frep. Frep.
What team is that?
Oh my gosh. You know what? He looks very close to being a furry.
Katie, all of them do.
Oh, you know why? Because it's a Japanese mascot for Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. I'm not really sure why he's a fox, but
Dinger, the only good mascot on this list. Like Kit said, it's fucking Triceratops.
No, it's Dinger, not Slugger. Yeah,
Got fucking
the best.
dots on the back of its thing, like whatever the little frilly thing for the Triceratops.
aw,
This guy rocks. All the rest of these guys get fucked, especially Orbit.
who's yeah, Dandy. There's so many birds.
Yeah, a lot of teams, especially baseball, for some reason have like bird names. Orioles, Cardinals.
And like, right, are those
the rest that I can't think of off the top of my head.
the rest of the birds? The Blue Jays?
Yeah, Blue Jays is one. Marlins.
The
I'm pretty sure
Ravens.
Marlins are birds.
Well, those are a different team. Yeah. Well,
What's happening?
I don't know. I like to talk
Mascot
about
cast.
the animals, but the mascot cast, yes.
Somebody I follow on
We know a
Letterboxd
lot about
just
baseball.
gave Totally to the Dead half star, so I gotta unfollow this person. I did not look up any news. I don't think Katie, did you look up any news?
I did, but I didn't really.
I feel like literally everything's just like fucking Scream.
Yeah, essentially.
All right. Katie, what'd you watch this week?
What did I watch? Well, of course, The Last of Us finished airing last night, so that's over.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can actually watch it, even though I've never played the game.
It's like essentially playing the game. You could just watch it.
So can I tell people
There-
after I watched it that I played the game?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I watched, of course, Invasion. I was talking about that. Then I just decided, I guess, that I'm like into like late 90s, early 2000s terrible TV shows, because then I watched another show called Invasion that is sometimes under Invasion and sometimes under Robert Cook's Invasion, that has Luke Perry and Kim Cattrall in it
I'm in.
and Rebecca Gayheart. It was not good. I will say it was kind of like one of those like movie TV event things where it was like 2 episodes and they were an hour and a half long or whatever, and it was in 2 parts. It was on Tubi, so you could definitely just watch it. There were some like actually kind of cool like body horror situations going on with it, but overall it was very bad and weird. R.I.P. Luke Perry. Then I watched another show from 2005 that was also like a mini series, like a very mini series kind of thing, called The Triangle, that had Lou Diamond Phillips, Sam Neill, and a couple other guys in it. And it's about the Bermuda Triangle, and like obviously the graphics don't really hold up very well, but like I actually really liked it. I thought it was fun, and that's also on Tubi. I've added so many Tubis. Also, I haven't started watching it yet, but I have access to the Roswell show. So that's going to be my next thing that I'm watching. So can't wait to talk about that. And I think, and then I just like watched the stuff for the bonus episode. So that's it.
What about you, Kit?
I didn't watch anything.
Hell yeah, that's the way to be.
I just
I assume
watched
when you
like fucking
say-
YouTube videos.
Yeah, I was going to say, I assume whenever you say I didn't watch anything, you watched like 25 hours of wrestling, old wrestling.
Yes, old wrestling or Warhammer videos or movies I've already seen before. So I haven't watched anything new this past week.
I watched
Very exciting.
37 movies this week. Almost all of them Santo movies. I started trying to watch my way through all of the El Santo movies, which are all bangers.
I don't know who that is.
He's a was like an actual like luchador wrestler that became popular and started making movies and made like 50 movies in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And like they're all incredible because it'll be like just the dumbest mishmash of a plot you could imagine, where it's like Santo, like let's say, so here's some of the titles: Santo versus the Evil Brain, Santo in the Wax Museum, Santo versus the Infernal Men, Santo versus the Zombies, Santo versus the Vampire Women. There's one of them called the Diabolical Axe, where like Santo's in a wrestling match and all of a sudden like an executioner from the 1800s blips in and he has to go back in time to find out why this executioner's trying to kill him. Santo versus the Martian Invasion. Like shit like that. It all rocks. Like the last one I watched was called Santo and the Blue Demon Against the Monsters. That's literally just these two luchador wrestlers fighting like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. But they're all like Mexican knockoffs of those characters. So they like the Wolfman looks real shitty and it rules. They're all extremely fun. Like some the quality of some of them is very, some of them are relatively cheaper looking than others, and not necessarily all like great quality, but they're all extremely fun. Like at some point they did a James Bond like spy movie, but like the spy is just Santo, so they still have like this fucking turtleneck on and like a luchador mask, and everyone's just like, yes, this is fine and normal. Nice. It's so good. They're so fun. I'm close to like halfway through all of them right now and having the best time watching them. I think the only other things new I watched was I watched Goodbye 20th Century, which is like,
oh, how's that?
I don't know. It's one of those movies that like I don't understand anything that happened in it, but I liked it. Like it's this movie from like Macedonia that like it's about this guy in like, I don't know, like some wasteland that discovers he's immortal, and then all of a sudden like there's a guy dressed as Santa Claus and they're in like I don't know, it's weird. It doesn't make any sense, at least this first time I watched it. I don't know if it's a movie that will make sense on a rewatch, but it's interesting and like looks good. It's just it was very fucking difficult to follow what was happening for me. And then I watched Massage Parlor Murders, which Vinegar Syndrome put out recently. That was pretty great. It's like not the best quality made movie, but totally watchable and fun. That's pretty much it. I rewatched like Jackass Forever and some other things, but mostly a shit ton of fucking Santo movies.
I'm looking forward to having money again and ordering some Vinegar Syndrome stuff. I wanted that Goodbye 20th Century and Biozombie.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to Biozombie sometime this week, I think. I just haven't had like the time to actually sit and watch something that I want to pay it, or like actually have to pay attention
Yeah,
to.
like focus
Yeah.
on.
All right. Shout outs, Katie.
I'm just gonna say The Last of Us.
Game or TV show?
The show. I think the game, but like, I don't know. It's not. I don't feel like it's like a game that I would recommend to like everybody because it's like, I think just watch the
It's
show.
bleak.
I don't know.
It's really good, but it's bleak.
Rainn Wilson from The Office tweeted that it might be bad because it's treating Christians as the bad guys. So,
What is going on with him?
I think he's just maybe a very dumb person.
He's pro cannibal. He's mad that the cannibal Christians were treated that way.
Yeah.
You know how it would be. Yeah. So.
Kit, what's your shout out?
I'm gonna say the book Rise of the Warrior Cop by Radley Balko. Everyone go read that so you can read about how cops actually do whisper at your door before breaking into your home with armed weapons, and you can read about how it's all Joe Biden's fault that they have all of this military hardware.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was gonna add, like, when you said Warrior Cop, I was like, is this a real book or like a, or
Yeah, I
like
was
a
like-
fiction or
Yeah,
not
it's
fiction?
it's an actual thing, kind of talking about the militarization of modern police forces and how like small town SWAT teams now have armored personnel carriers and like grenade launchers and all kinds of
Oh.
military hardware. It's like, does this town with 200 people in it actually need a SWAT team even? Like,
I was gonna say I'm on board with a non-real book called Rise of Warrior Cop, but
you can just watch the short-lived Fox animated show Axe Cop.
oh,
The cop with the axe.
hell yeah, that sounds up my alley.
He rides a dinosaur that has miniguns for arms.
Fuck yes, we
It's,
used to be a real country.
Its origin, it used to be a comic book, I guess, and this guy's like kid brother would just like come up with the characters and like the plots or whatever, and his older brother would just animate all of it and like draw all of it.
Oh, I've seen like this image of Axe Cop before. I don't think I realized it was a real thing.
Oh yeah. I've only seen one episode, but it was delightful.
Oh man, Ken Marino and Nick Off. This fucking cast is pretty great. I'm in.
Right?
I'm definitely watching this. Fuck. I've literally just been watching Santo movies. I don't know if I have like an actual fucking shout out. What have I listened to? My shout out is I made Caitlin listen to a very old Sugar Ray song to prove that they used to be an actual rock band before Fly.
Yeah.
It's in my recently played now, and it's like, oh fuck, now it's gonna like my Spotify algorithm's gonna be all fucked up from having 45 seconds of a Sugar Ray song played.
Right.
Number one artist of the
Yeah,
year.
probably.
Sugar Ray.
I don't know. Go watch Santo movies. They rock. That's my shout out. Everybody support your local luchador wrestler.
Yeah. And listen to Mean Machine by Sugar Ray.
Fucking terrible band. All right. Kid, are you picking something for next week?
Yes, I've got two bangers for y'all to choose from.
I
We can
doubt that.
either do Dolph Lundgren starring masterpiece Shark Lake,
Ugh.
or I Drink Your Blood.
I've seen I Drink Your Blood, but it's been a long time. It's like, can't remember how good it is.
I remember loving it a whole lot when I saw it, but that was ages ago. So I don't know
This
how it
from
holds
the
up. I
70s?
assume it's
Yeah.
great. Yes.
Hmm.
I mean,
It's, it's about a satanic cult in a town
yeah.
that they like kill this guy's grandpa or something. So he bakes a pie and fills it with rabies infected dog blood. And
So this is what
Ew.
this is what I'm gonna say. I Drink Your Blood has an average of 3 point something stars. Shark Lake 1.6. So I think
both much too low.
I feel like Shark Lake
Shark
might
Lake.
have to be it.
That's been coming up on my suggested for Tubi.
It's a banger. That's
Kid is the only person I
they're
follow that
way
gave it over
underselling
like a 1.5 star.
yeah. I was gonna say I think he gave it 3, right?
Yeah,
Oh my god, yeah.
yeah. Let's do Shark Lake.
Rocks.
All right.
I mean, you sold me Dolph Lundgren, immediately. So
Number one Gizmo fan on Letterboxd has reviewed it 3 times. So I think that's all you need to know.
all 3 top reviews are. Wow, these reviews. Like one of the reviews is just Shark Lake in all caps.
Yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah. We need more Dolph Lundgren on this podcast anyway.
Y'all are gonna love it.
Oh, I'm sure it rocks. I'm all like, even the shitty shark movies I'm on board watching, so.
It's been a while since we did a shark
We
movie.
literally just did a shark movie last week. Not
What
not a
was
full episode, but we did Swamp Shark.
Oh, I meant I meant like a regular episode.
What was that on Tubi? I'm
Yes, sir.
assuming. I feel like any shark
Old
movie, you
tubes.
just say just Tubi.
I'll say it was on Prime. It used to be anyway. If you want to watch it without commercials, I think it's still on there.
I would almost bet it might be on YouTube or
Shudder.
something for free. Let's see. Yep, you can watch it for free on YouTube as well. Because
Hell yeah.
oh shit, Ghost Shark on here for free too. I think we might have to do Ghost Shark too at some point soon.
Absolutely. Shark Month again.
Damn, there's a lot of shark movies on here for free that just look fucking terrible. I like when like a YouTube video you could tell is just like when someone like uploads a movie or something but they never put the title. It's just like Shark Attack New English Movies 2021. And I'm just like, what the fuck movie is this? It starts with a lot of girls in bikinis, so I'm assuming it's very bad.
It's so good it doesn't even need a title, okay?
Yeah. Alright. Yeah, Shark Lake next week. Maybe we'll do The Lair after that.
No.
I keep seeing people watch that for some reason now after you mentioned it, and everybody, like, for some reason, they're all like, this is pretty good. And I'm like, God damn it.
It's so not. I couldn't finish it. I recommended some real dog shit on this podcast, and I couldn't finish that movie.
I always tell
The
people,
Lair?
yeah. There's times I'm like, you don't understand. Like, if I can't finish a movie, it's unwatchable.
It's real bad.
I don't know if you know the movies we do on this podcast, but a lot of the times they're fucking hard to get through, and I still do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's been very little like situation. There has been a few times where like one of us has watched the movie and been like, this is so bad we have to pick something else, but like a lot of these movies I would not finish if I didn't have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I feel like most of the time though, if it's a movie that we're like, we gotta pick something else, it's either because it's too racist or like literally no plot in it. Like when Katie and I stopped doing the Amityville movies, I watched the two of the ones we were gonna do, and I was like, there's nothing to talk about. Like Amityville Cop is just 45 minutes of just like slow-mo footage of like graffiti in Los Angeles. I was like, we will not have anything to talk about in this fucking movie. Alright, if you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/hypeyourself-for-podcast. We recently dropped a bonus episode on swamp movies. And then we're also going to have our best of episodes sometime out, probably around the time this episode drops. A lot of Morbius talk coming. Only movie I watched in 2022.
Same.
Can't believe it got snubbed for best makeup or best
Yeah.
special effects. Could have gave fuck.
Best main actor.
Yeah. Old cool guy Jared Leto.
Old cool
Yeah,
guy.
that's his nickname in Hollywood. Old cool guy. Old cool guy. Uh,
Old Colgate.
yeah. But you don't realize Jared Leto's a nepo baby from the fucking toothpaste family.
Yeah.
The toothpaste.
Colgate
family.
Comedy Hour.
He's got old jazz money in his blood.
Yeah.
You can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. You can, speaking of Jared Leto, you can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. Get a Morbius shirt. You can leave us a rating on Spotify and a rating and review on iTunes. Tell us your favorite baseball mascot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to know.
Unless it's Orbit, then get the fuck out of here and stop listening to us.
Yeah.
Because that makes no sense.
Little garbage freak.
I mean,
Get out of here. Get out of
Is
baseball.
Astros supposed to literally just be like space shit?
I guess.
He's
They
like
should
a
have. They
he's
should
like
have
a
stuck with
space
being
gremlin.
the Houston Colt 45s. Way cooler name.
Every single sports team should just be named after a weapon, in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed.
The Cincinnati Halberds.
Yeah.
Like,
I still think you should base them off of local cryptids.
yes,
Yeah, me
that would be
too.
incredible. Except for I mean, how many teams would have to be a Bigfoot because of
Yeah. Just different
yeah,
variation.
just the
Miami skunk apes.
Seattle Bigfoots, the fucking every Midwest team would just be some sort of Bigfoot.
I'm cheering like hell for the Fort Worth Goatmen.
I think you would just have to start stealing from other places for your cryptids. But I'm in. Just you don't even have to necessarily be local. Just be a cryptid.
Listen, if you don't have your own
We gotta
cryptid,
go,
you,
man.
you don't get to be a baseball
Yeah, you
team.
can't have.
There's the I think San Antonio has the bridge lady.
The bridge
donkey
lady?
lady.
I think
It's the San Antonio donkey lady.
I think you would have to
There you
do
go.
the team has to be a cryptid name, and it could only be one team per state. So
California losing 40 fucking sports teams.
no, I mean if it's one baseball team per state, one football team per state, obviously the sport,
Yeah.
not one team all together, but
I mean-
each sport, as opposed to where
but
there's the New York,
California has 5 baseball teams.
they all got to merge to one. Sorry,
Yeah, they don't need that
I'm
many.
making the hard rules as president, and this is my number one priority. Too many sports teams in each league. We don't need 2 New York teams playing fucking football. Too many baseball teams with socks in their name, named after socks. To get the fuck out of here. One of you got to go. Even though I know you're not both the same state, right? Who are the Red
Yeah.
Sox?
Boston.
I wanted to say Boston, but it didn't sound right in my mind, so
Boston.
this is too much sports talk this episode. We're never doing a sports movie
Yeah.
again.
Spots.
Yeah, it's
Fucking
sports.
We're
spots.
going to become only a
agree.
podcast about the city of Boston being destroyed.
Yeah.
Fucking Stonados.
Uh,
all over Boston.
I don't remember where I was at. Follow everybody wherever. Who cares? Follow Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can find.
Yeah, I
just
think you-
search
I think you
Warhammer.
got
You'll find
to-
Kit.
Yeah, I think you got
true.
to leave us a review, and then you said,
Then we
you
started
know.
talking about cryptids and mascots.
yeah.
So he got distracted by the donkey lady.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Go watch Shark Lake. I'm going to assume by 1.6 star rating that it rocks. I mean, Dolph Lundgren's in it. How bad could it be? He's never been in a bad movie.
Exactly.
It's my stance. I've only seen 2 of them. That's my stance because they're both good.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. I hope you
Donkey lady.
don't get killed by a hook hand, but why? Unless you're turf, then I hope you do.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Multiple hook hands.
Just one hook hand, and also all of the fingers are replaced by hooks.